The 7 killers of sexual intimacy in marriage. Number 1 is the corruption and perversion from the sinful online content and media. So there are many believers who, God forbid, are still watching online adult content, or at least were exposed in the past, that carry the corruption of what is happening in these things into their holy matrimonial bedroom. The sexual immorality industry thrives on selling fantasies. So even the actors despise the things you're doing, but yet people who watch these things think it is real and carry those expectations into their marriage bed. And this is a big killer of sexual intimacy, because suddenly one partner comes and tells their spouse they want to practice the Japanese cricket in an upside down ninja riding a boat position or something. And that is unrealistic, because the partner is probably uncomfortable. And hey, I just made that up, so don't go googling nonsense because you want to find out what I'm saying. But you get the point I'm saying. So this corruption and this perversion, when brought into God's holy bed and matrimony, is a big sexual intimacy killer. The underlying principle for deciding what is tolerated and what is not in a marriage bed is consent from both spouses. So if one partner is not comfortable with something, at least anything beyond the most basic necessities of sexual intimacy, as can even be described in the book of Songs of Solomon, can be rightfully declined. But however, this doesn't necessarily mean that the other partner just gets comfortable accepting that. It just creates unnecessary tension. Even unrealistic media perversions and expectations, it's not designed anywhere that physical intimacy is supposed to last, whether it's 30 minutes or it's 1 hour or it's how many minutes or hours that the media has brainwashed people today. There is no standard for that. It's all about mutual satisfaction. No one ever says the perfect breakfast or perfect lunch is supposed to last 45 minutes or 1 hour. It's about the satisfaction you get from the food, not about how long you spend eating the food. And that is the same thing with sexual intimacy in marriage. The simple solution is to let go of these corrupted expectations and perverted knowledge, and seek that our minds be renewed by the word of God to what is really indeed pure and right and necessary, because the fantasies are all lies. Number 2 is lack of communication and bonding. Many people don't realize that sexual intimacy is the culmination of continuous communication and bonding between a couple. It is a finale, not a start or an introduction. It's sad that our culture has turned things upside down, and so when people go out even on a date, instead of trying to get to know each other in communication and bonding and keeping the finale for the last thing, which is in marriage, we want to start with the finale. You might as well decide to skip the entire 9 months gestation period and go straight to giving birth to a child on day 1. That is not realistic, and it's not practical, and it's the same thing with sexual intimacy. God designed physical intimacy to be the icing on the cake, the sealing move, or the final dang step in a continuous process of physical bonding, emotional bonding, intellectual bonding, and then you get onto physical bonding. And that is the same thing as far as dating, going into marriage is concerned, and even living the marriage life. So therefore, what happens at night doesn't begin at night. It begins in the morning, all throughout the day. Every exchange, every occasion to bond, every show of affection, of thoughtfulness, of care, of love, all of this build up to a satisfactory and fulfilling physical intimacy at the end. Number 3 is dumb religious engagements. In 1 Corinthians 7, the Apostle Paul makes it clear that the husband's body belongs to the wife, and likewise the wife's body belongs to her husband. So you can't engage in extended religious rituals and exercises that will require you to abstain from physical intimacy with your spouse, 1, without their consent, and 2, for unreasonably extended periods of time. The reason I describe it as dumb religious engagements is because Religious people, spooky people tend to perceive sexual intimacy as something dirty. They think of God as a prude, God who created sexual intercourse himself. They think God is embarrassed by the idea, whereas scriptures even makes it clear to us that God is right there every time you're consummating your marriage. He's watching. So he's not embarrassed. He designed it for your satisfaction, for your pleasure, and for procreation. So you can't try to apologize to God for engaging in something that he carefully crafted and carefully designed for your own fulfillment. Some might think it's creepy or weird when you look at it that way, but it's a fact, and you realize it's even creepier when you decide to engage in sexual immorality, fornication, adultery, masturbation, all those things, because God is seated right there watching at you. And now that's the only time when he's really embarrassed and disappointed because we're sinning against him. But in your holy matrimony, sexual intimacy with your spouse takes precedence over every religious ritual except for short periods of time. The fourth killer of sexual intimacy in marriage is body shaming and unrealistic body expectations. No believer is perfect, and we all strive to grow closer to God daily despite our continuous falling and making mistakes. God doesn't go about shaming us when we appear before him to worship him, even if we are coming right after sinning or doing something against him. He doesn't look at us and point fingers at our imperfections. No, he embraces us with his love and tries to support us and help us grow and overcome those challenges. Likewise, he's designed that in marriage, there should be no circumstance where one partner should feel embarrassed by their body in front of their spouse. Just like Hebrews 4:16 says, "Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need," which is in time of our infirmities. In a healthy marriage, spouses must be able to appear boldly and comfortable in their body and skin, irrespective of whatever shortcomings or imperfections they have. Therefore, instead of unrealistic body expectations or body shaming, you should rather support and accompany your spouse for growth and change in their body. But however, also within realistic limits as well, because there are many things you would just have to accept about your spouse and not go trying to change them. Especially when we start talking about unnatural procedures like surgeries and complicated kinds of procedures. Number 5, unforgiveness and malice. Even scriptures tell us, Jesus told us, if we come to worship, to fellowship, it's like intimacy in his presence between the Spirit of the Lord and our spirit, between God and us, between Christ and the church. If we come to fellowship, have that intimacy, and we remember that we have a problem with our brother, or even our brother has a problem with us, that's in the case of unforgiveness, malice, we should keep our offering there. We should not engage in the intimacy with him and go and make peace first before we can come back and offer our offering. And this is the same thing in marriage. Unforgiveness, malice is one of the biggest killers of sexual intimacy. And it's more often than not the result of fruit of number 2, the lack of communication. Because without communication, giving room to discuss shortcomings, to discuss failures, to discuss disappointments, and get to the process of healing and letting go, then we shrug and sweep all these things under the carpet. Then they become like a weight or obstacle to fluid sexual intimacy. Number 6 killer of sexual intimacy is children. Yes, you may not know that, but the data shows that children are inadvertently a major cause of conflict in marriages and therefore also killers to sexual intimacy. The first reason is that people fail to realize that marriage and childbearing are two different institutions. The marriage is first and foremost for the partners, the couples. That is who is concerned in a marriage. Now, marriage is the medium for God to bring more people into this world, but they are not inherently part of the marriage. And that is why they come, they are born, they grow, and someday they leave to lead their own lives, and the marriage still remains. So when children arrive and one partner or both partners transfer all their attention and affection and time to raising the children and leave no time to nurture the marriage, then it always weighs and destroys sexual intimacy, which is a critical glue to keeping the marriage together. So listen carefully, it may sound selfish, but no, marriage is not about children. Parenting and family are about the children, but you won't have a family and parenting without marriage. Therefore, the foundation, the root that should be catered for and nurtured is the marriage. And that is why when marriages fall apart, the ensuing family and children are always devastated. So we have a society where we tend to the leaves and the branches more than we tend to the roots that provide the nutrients for the leaves and the branches. And without a doubt, we can see the devastating results that we have achieved so far. So the marriage is just as important as the family and the children, but even more important, because if you take care of the marriage, then the children and family is taken care of automatically. And the last but not the least, I actually have number 7 here as unmitigated long distance existence, but I think we should pick number 7 from one of our viewers. So share down in the comments below what you think is number 7 killer of sexual intimacy in marriage, and we're going to pin perhaps the one that has the most likes or the one that we just think is really good and should be on the list. So I guess I'm going to give you my number 7 as number 6.5. Unmitigated long distance existence. In counseling, you get to meet spouses, particularly wives who are living in a long distance relationship from their husbands, and perhaps they are with the kids and over extended periods of time. That's why I say unmitigated. So sometimes spouses have to live way distances apart, maybe for work and school and other pursuits, but these must be mitigated, meaning it must have intervals where you have to come and meet and bond, just like the scriptures tell us in 1 Corinthians 7, that separation must be for a short period of time. So if it's not mitigated, you get in counseling and you meet many women who say after an extended period of time, they don't have any feelings or emotions even for their husbands anymore. The guy has in effect just become a bro. He's just a dude to them. And this phenomenon is recognized in psychology because after missing someone so much, and it hurts every time you miss them, so the only way to stop getting hurt is to stop missing them completely. So you kind of freeze or quench your heart completely so that you don't get to feel anything at all, and therefore you don't risk getting hurt. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I want to say a big thank you to all our patrons for helping us create content like this. You too can do the same. The link is down below. I am Buddha Jumesi from Wisdom for Dominion. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next video, stay blessed.